So let's start with just sitting quietly for a few moments, sitting comfortably, feeling as though you're supported, regardless of whether this puts you in sort of what we might think of as correct posture in terms of Tai Chi. So sitting back, really reminding ourselves of what it feels like to be able to sit upright, but without having to strain. And that's particularly true, of course, for the upper part of your body. And then rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. To the side. And the upper part of your chest. Light on your belly, and then finally your legs. Again, just sitting, maybe bringing your attention to your breathing if that helps, to your posture, so that we just experience this sense of a sort of gathered attention. Gradually drawing your attention more into your body, becoming more aware of your posture in the process of doing that. So there's this interplay, if you like to think, between what we think of as mind, what we think of as body, that an awareness, a focusing of your attention into your body enables this sense of settling or quietening, and clarity that begins to develop in your mind, and that clarity gives us more awareness of what happens in the body. So these two aspects very much reinforce each other. Still, maybe sitting back in the chair, don't sit right back, try and be a little bit forward, but use the back of the chair for support, and just turning your head a little. So we're just reminding ourselves of the general feel of the movements, the postures that we take in Tai Chi. And there's different ways of describing them. I always seem to land on a quality of spaciousness. Feels like there's room to move in my body. So that with this one, for instance, not feeling that there's a strong resistance, a barrier to the movement. Hands in front of your shoulders. As we go through these opening exercises, another quality can emerge, which is this feel of being connected. That, we think of this as a movement with the shoulders, but if we're paying attention, we notice what's happening in our chest, in our upper back, realise that it's not just the shoulders that are part of this movement and that are putting the effort into this movement. So there's a whole range of other parts of the body that are, in one way or another, are part of this going forwards. So the effect and the effort to move is actually beginning to be spread through the body. Bringing your hands down, and then just beginning to wind your arms around. So those connections in the body seem to become much more apparent when we lose tightness and stiffness. It's like the tightness breaks those connections or lays across those connections somehow. Bringing your hands up, winding around. So our awareness of the movement goes deeper and deeper, appreciating more and more subtle aspects until we get to that sense of the movement itself. A movement that isn't specific to one part of the body, one function, seems to pervade the whole of the body, going back the other way. And so this inevitably brings us to that quality of an energy, a fluid, connecting quality all the way through the body that underpins and governs all the other movements. Your hands rest down. Now ideally for this next few movements you sit forwards, but don't do so if it's causing your back to ache. Certainly in this position the weight distribution in the body is that the majority of the weight is in your hips and buttocks, about 70%, about 30% in your feet at the moment. But just tilt your pelvis forwards a little bit so that more of your weight goes in to your legs and you angle forwards, and then pushing down, bring yourself back up. So try not to strain in your back, the neck, the shoulders, to lift your head up. And a useful way to just start this awareness is to have a sense that what you're doing is pushing your shoulders back. Your legs are being compressed and then they start to expand. Your feet push into the floor, your shoulders are pushed back. Sink into your hips, and there's a similar compression and release in lower back and hips, not as obvious. So the impetus, the energy for the movement comes from your feet and your hips. And to begin with, just thinking in terms of your upper body, the muscles, skeletons, tendons and ligaments and so on in your upper body, maintaining a shape, maintaining a structure without having to stiffen up, and so the structure moves easily. So this act of coming to the upright position, which can cause a great deal of strain, becomes much smoother. As you get more used to this again, then you realise that it's not quite as passive as I was just describing. For a start, as you go forwards, your hips, it's like somebody's grabbed hold of the top of your trousers and pulled you back. So your hips are already pulling you back. And that means that in your back and your spine in particular, there's a little bit of an extension as you go forwards, and then a contraction as you come back, like an elastic band being pulled out and then allowed to contract slowly. And you may also notice in the front of your body, as you push down through your feet, this sort of rising movement, like a wave rising up through belly, solar plexus and chest. So there are various areas that we can focus our attention on. And one of the things we want to avoid is getting too caught up with any one aspect. They're all important, and ultimately they're all part of the same movement. Now turn just a little bit in the centre of your body. So the phrase in Tai Chi that sums this up is when it says in one of the old writings that when one part of your body is in motion, the whole body is in motion. And this can refer to that underlying energy moving through the whole body, but also these there's various ways in which different parts of the body engage in a particular movement. And as I said before, spreading the effort, spreading the benefit. So that although we've looked at it so far in sort of different parts of the body, the ultimate intention is to get beyond that and have a sense of the holistic nature of the movement. And then in the other direction. Imagine him moving through water, or as though the air around you is thicker than normal. It's an interesting idea to play with. Our bodies naturally will respond to images, and this image of resistance, but a soft resistance, begins to encourage the body to move as though that resistance were really there. And when we're moving against the resistance, then we do move differently. And then just circling around from the centre of your body. This area, pelvis, hips, waist, becoming increasingly significant as a point of focus and as the sort of centre of the movement. It's this part of the body, a centre part of the body, you want to feel is dropping towards the ground, to root down. When we move in the centre part of the body, one way or another, that movement touches the whole body. It's described sometimes as being like the hub of a wheel. And in the other direction, coming back to rest in this 70-30 weight distribution. Move to one side a little bit, step out with the opposite foot, put your heel down. Lower the ball of the foot, make sure this knee is still well bent so you can push gently into the plant in the foot. Pull back, so just measuring your step. And then having planted the foot, let your weight follow. And be really clear about the order of the movement. There's always a tendency for us to lead with the upper part of the body, and especially the arms. Changing sides. But we want to get that sense of the centre, and by extension, our legs and our feet, as being the sort of the progenitors of the movement, the place where the movement comes from. That's quite a significant mental change. We're easing forwards. So we start to view our posture, we start to view our movements as things that start from the ground upwards. And then shifting from side to side. Noticing how your body just naturally makes very subtle adjustments to allow you to change from side to side. Noticing how significant they are. Coming back to the centre. So we begin to notice very subtle changes within the body. And we can come to see these as being the building blocks of the bigger movements. So rather than trying to move an arm, we try and feel what's behind that movement, what builds up that movement. And these are the aspects of movement that we're more likely to find can be influenced by this gathering of our attention and a sense of intention. These small changes of the body, once we become aware of them, can be very sensitive to changes in intention. So it's not that we're not interested in the bigger movements, it's actually how we build those movements up. So we see a movement, we copy it, and you copy what you can see, which is quite often the arms, of course, initially. But in doing so, by paying attention, we realise, oh, when I do this with my arm, I feel an expansion here, a contraction there, I feel that part of the body, I feel that happening. And so we gradually build up that inner awareness. Once again, body, mind, and also energy beginning to blend and interact with each other to cultivate each other. So, sitting back if you need to, but if you can be forwards, that's great. Let your hands drop down, turning your hands palm forwards, and then easing forwards, and at the same time, once again, this rotating movement in your arms. The bird folds its wings, so you come back, doing that lovely expansion up, right up into your chest, gentle contraction in your back between the shoulder blades. Then that reverses as you go forwards. So there's that primary drive of our weight almost sort of bouncing from hips to feet. But then we have this series of small changes, patterns of expansion and contraction in the upper part of our body. Sort of taking that basic drive and beginning to bring about a certain shape. In this case, the exercise bird folds its wings. You may not notice this with every exercise. We tend to have our favourite exercises in my experience. So in some, these processes will become much more clear than in others to begin with. Now this time, leaving your hands facing palm back, pushing them past the net. Taking the side, and notice that as I go forward, my hands are still behind my shoulders until I arrive in my front legs, and then they swing through. And likewise, going back, not until I settle into my hips, that the arms swing through. Again, we could use the image of moving through water. What we want to try and avoid is to sit here and sort of thrust the arms out like that. And this way we begin to keep that structure that we began to develop initially. Structure that enables us to maintain that space for movement within the body. So very aware of the contact that you have with the ground through the soles of your feet. Aware of the contact between the centre of your body, so most obviously hips and buttocks. First of all with the chair, of course, but via the chair again down into the ground. Beginning to feel that little bit of a push that is enabled by that contact, a sense of the movement, the energy arising. Not letting your arms dominate either the physical movement or your awareness. But this time, leaving your arms out front so that as you come back, they're drawn up a little bit and your elbows drop, bringing your fingers in. Imagine a ball underneath your arms, his arms draped over the ball, and what you're going to do is you're going to pull the ball in towards you. I can only really do it effectively on one side of the chair, but this is so that you can see. You imagine that ball. You don't want to lift your arms because you'll lose contact with the ball. But it's the nature of our minds that when we're not so concerned with our arms and our hands, but when they're not filling our attention, we notice more and more subtle details once again. We're back to that idea. And so again, I mentioned this earlier, that sense of a rising movement. I go forwards, with my legs compressed, I feel the push upwards coming up to my belly, solar plexus and chest, and we may find that just comes up underneath our arms. So without us having to strain, almost by accident really, we find that our arms are beginning to rise a little bit higher. That helps us to feel that expansive quality a little bit higher up the body. And all of this can be done without having to stiffen or strain our shoulders or arms. You may find that your breathing just naturally harmonizes with these movements. Again, there's this underlying movement, this underlying pulse, energy, expanding and then contracting. This is a pretty regular rhythm through all of these movements. And you may even find that as your body expands, it's just very natural for you to take a breath in. It doesn't always quite work out like that. So if it doesn't, don't try and force that. But most of us find eventually that our breathing, like everything else in the body, naturally begins to harmonize with this underlying pulse. Turning your hands palm in, this time let the expansion push your elbows apart, drawing your fingers out, and then this pigeon spreads its wings. Then from the side here, don't let your elbows come behind your shoulders because that will pull on your chest. But try and feel this softening in your rib cage and sternum as though the ribs were just kind of folding in a little bit. And almost the opposite in your upper back, between your spine and your shoulder blades. Once again, this movement that could prove to be a strain on our arms, our shoulders, our chest. Actually, the energy is there for the movement, radiating up from the ground and out through those patterns of movement in the upper part of the body. And the role of your arms is not passive by any means, but is to create a shape for that movement, that energy to be expressed. This time, as you come back, leave your hands in line with your hips and your sides, but let your elbows go out a little bit, and then coming back in. So now, all those different parts of the body are still engaged very subtly, and this gives us the movement pushing wave. Slightly stronger image, pushing against something, slightly stronger feel because we have a more compact, a denser movement. So this conditions both the body physically in various ways, but also energetically. It was a stronger, more resilient energy, more harmonious energy, which is very compatible with the ideas that we find around this subject in Chinese medicine. Combining this with the stepping that we did earlier, turning towards one side, taking your time, and then on the other side. Remember, feet first. Okay, now facing forwards, rolling your fingers into a hollow fist, pushing out and back. Now this time, your elbows don't go out, they come back. They don't go behind the hips. Your arms get a little bit straighter. And we also have this driving power, feet and hips. So the arms, it's like winding up a clockwork toy and then letting it release. So there isn't an intention to ignore the arms, but rather to have them in the correct place in the order of things. So there's a pattern here that we could describe as loading. Your whole body's loaded, your hips are loaded, the back is loaded, the arms are loaded, and then everything releases. At the end of the movement, this time opening your fingers, turning your hands out. Almost like you're doing the breaststroke in reverse, winding back and pushing forwards. Coming back this time, and as Hands come in front of your belly, turning them palm down, turn. Using that movement that we did earlier in the centre of the body, easing forwards, letting the arms extend, turning, polishing the table. So we have that extension through back and spine, through arms and fingers, contraction. And the direction of the movement coming from the centre part of your body. So again, becoming increasingly significant point of focus for us. It's just a moment as we switch from one side to another, one direction to another, where from here there's a sort of moment of settling before we move off. And that loads the body, that loads the hips, that loads the legs. So we get that sense of sinking down, and then we feel the push up. We come to a series of vertical movements now, applying the same principles, a little bit more subtle. It's not the same obvious movement of the weight, for instance. Bringing your hands around as though they're cradling a ball, feeling the pull of gravity through your body, allowing it free passage through your upper body, feeling the compression again, lower back, hips, buttocks, legs, feet, and then feeling the push up, expanding through your body, pushing your arms up, turn your hands over and pressing the ball down. So in order to get the push up, we have to have a very strong connection to the ground. That expansion in the centre of the body needs to push down, needs something to push against. So the connection to the ground, the root, is of primary importance here. Rooting down, the name of the exercise, reflects that. So rooting down is the process in Tai Chi by which we begin to allow our centre of gravity to drop, and that has an almost immediate effect on posture and stability. It's also, as we're beginning to feel here, the process of really generating and experiencing that rising, falling energy. Then turning your fingers out, and this time expansion, pushing your arms away, and the body letting them swing up. Like a bird in flight, this is the wild goose. So although you may feel a little bit tired sometimes when you're doing this, especially in the seated exercise, it's not at all unusual. Although you're exercising, we're cultivating this process of developing a sense of energy through that connection to the ground, coming in and sort of rejuvenating the body's natural energy. And these very, very subtle changes that produce the big movement. And then as your hands drop down this time, easing forward so your arms can just swing in front of your knees. Sit back, expanding in belly, solar plexus and chest, parting the clouds. So it's not that there's no effort involved in this, there's a tremendous amount of effort involved. But it's not a strained effort, and it's not an effort that requires us to focus on one particular part of the body. Here, we can begin to get a sense of expansion really from the soles of our feet right up through our body to the tips of our fingers. One more round. Letting your hands drop down, feeling your weight settle into your hips, feeling the weight of your arms on your shoulders. And then as you feel the push back up, focusing on one side, pushing your arm up, wind around so you're plucking something off a tree and pull it out. As dragon plucks the stars from the sky. A moment once again, feeling your weight, feeling the weight of your arms, and then the expansion on the opposite side, followed by the contraction. These moments of resettling, which I just mentioned, and weight of the body on the hips and so on, hugely important. It's worth exaggerating them a little bit at times, just to remind ourselves of this quality, the stillness within the movement. But in point of fact, we do begin to find that it really is momentary. Here, just settling down, we note it, but then the movement begins again on the opposite side. One of the reasons I described there's not so much as a pause between the sides of the movement as being more like a comma functions in a sentence. Doesn't break the flow, but stops it becoming a little bit too kind of wild and manic. One more on each side. Bringing your hands in with the inside of your arm lightly touching the side of your hips, or maybe just above that. And then again, expanding from the center, pushing your hands up as though you're pressing into a low ceiling. Back until you can just feel that light touch again, and then pushing sideways. There's a rotation from the shoulder through your arm, with the expansion, the contraction. Turning back to the front. We turn in the center, we change the direction of movement with the arms. The arms are pushed straight out from your body. So the main part of the movement for the arms is actually taken care of before the movement reaches the arms in, away. Back, belly, chest, center of the body, your hips and your waist. Very much guiding and directing your arms. This time, extending one foot, toes up, knee a little bit bent, easing forwards, gently lengthening through your back and spine, and then feeling that pull back into the chair and that rising energy in the front of your body, pushing you back, pushing your arms up in the movement, scooping the sea, looking at the sky. And then, still with the leg extended, again a loose fist, hollow fist in each hand, going forward, feeling that expansion, and then almost like your sternum, chest bones dropping back into your chest. Here, it seems to protrude out a little bit. Here, it drops back. The rib cage folds in on itself, helping to bring your arms around, just grasping the tiger's ears. Changing sides. And change. Each change is a change in image, in memory, in intention, resulting in a change in the external shape. So now, taking those ideas into standing, if you wish, obviously a little bit more challenging. Let's just prepare for the standing again with this tapping exercise. So tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. And on the other side. And the upper part of your chest. And the belly. And your legs. And then just to get the blood circulating in our legs a bit more, pushing your heels up. And circling around. And back the other way. So if you wish to stand, then go to standing. And we're looking for the same feelings, the same sensations, the same qualities in particularly the upper part of the body, that same sense of spaciousness, or however you relate to it. Obviously the structure is going to be different. We're much more reliant on our legs are much more reliant on that idea of the alignment with the pull of gravity. In the chair, you can get away with being a little bit out of line. If you're a little bit out of line standing, it's going to almost instantly create tension in the body. So trying to find a way of standing that once again allows a free passage for gravity down through your body. If I'm leaning forwards like this, gravity is pulling me forwards, and I'm necessarily going to be straining to pull myself back. From this position, letting your hips drop back a little bit more. Here we can really feel the legs being loaded and then expanding, pushing up until gravity takes over and pulls us down. So probably more obvious here than it was in the chair how allowing gravity through our body, allowing gravity to pull our hips down, actually initiates an upward movement, an expanding energy. Bringing your hands around as though you're cradling the ball, and the standing version of rooting down. At the bottom of the movement, turning your fingers out, and your arms get pushed away from your body, wild goose, and then parting the clouds. And just feeling how, as you are reminded of the sequence, rooting down, wild goose, parting the clouds, the change just seems to happen almost by itself. And this begins to show us the significance of memory, of imagery, awareness, focused into intention. We don't need to think, oh, now I need to lift my arms. We go into the shape that we're familiar with, and there's an intention to fill that shape. Final time. And shake out. So, this is not mind over matter, as I've often said to you all, but rather the outcome of these three aspects of mind, body, and energy harmonizing and blending and becoming one. And it's something that we experience in lots of ways. I'm willing to bet if you went to your kitchen to make a cup of tea, you wouldn't have to think too hard about where the kettle was. You would know with a sense of familiarity. So we're bringing that into a kind of conscious awareness of our bodies, and an ability to influence our movements, the state of our body, the state of our energy, the state of our mind. In the parallel stance, imagine parallel lines going across the floor. Turn one foot out and step forwards with the other. So once again, we're going to be transferring the weight, just as we did in the chair. This time, obviously, again, much more emphasis on legs and feet, but the same idea, giving yourself a chance to feel that compression in the leg, which then expands, directing the energy into your other leg, giving yourself a chance and not rushing this, really trying to feel what's happening down through from your hips, through your thighs, into your knees and calves, ankles and the soles of your feet. To begin with, your upper body just sitting passively, but if you imagine moving through water, you'll feel how your body responds to that with those, that's it. If I was in water and I simply moved forwards and did nothing in the upper part of my body, my shoulders would be pushed back. So when we convince the bodies, as it were, that we're in water, it's going to make adjustments, very subtle adjustments. And we can begin to feel that in combination with this internal flow. And into your back foot, raise the front toes so you shift back a little bit more. You'll have the front foot a little bit turned out here. Push your back knee in so that you feel your body shift, beginning to find that quality of alignment more over one leg, which is obviously going to be trickier. It's stronger on the legs, so do be careful of your knees. And then bringing the foot in, step out, put the ball of the foot down, lower the heel, press in gently, plant the foot. Don't rush to take the step. Make sure of your alignment and your root through one leg before this is not a race. And then with the other foot forwards. Raising toes and your heel. And stepping in. And then stepping through, so depending on where you've got the space, forwards or backwards. Don't rush. And then changing direction. Shake out. Have your right foot forward, so mirror my movements. Again, you can go forwards or backwards, depending on where you've got the room. And do the exercise, dragonfly skims the water. So I'm going to have to go forward. So going into your empty foot, whichever direction you're going in, and as you sink in, you turn, and let your arms get pushed out. Bring in the empty foot in, step through, put the heel down or the ball of the foot, and as you lower the whole foot, lower your arms. Go forwards. Here, feel your body expanding, taking the step and contracting. And what you may find, as always, don't rush this, but you may find you're just able to raise the leg a little, step through. Hips dropping back. Dragonfly skims the water. And then going back. Shake out. So going back to your chair. So intention is like a suggestion to the body. I couldn't say instruction, it's more a suggestion to the body. Maybe through imagery or memory, idea, whatever. But these are always intentional movements. And some of those intentions are specific to a particular exercise, maybe that image of the bird or whatever. Others are much more general, keeping that sense of connection to the ground, keeping that feeling of spaciousness within the body. And at different times we may choose to put different emphasis on this, but there are these underlying things, and an intention to allow the free flow of energy through the body, the harmonisation of that energy. In this exercise, the last exercise, Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain, the intention is very much this process of coming back to the root, centre, everything that we would associate with that in terms of mind, body, and energy. So just letting your hands drop down, starting with an expanding movement, but after this, followed by a series of contractions. Bring your arms around into a ball holding position, in towards your chest, and then this sense of everything dropping down, bringing your attention to your hips, down into your feet, feeling the weight of your arms, and then starting the whole cycle all over again. Embrace Tiger, returning to the mountain. Noting how it is that we find our way back to these qualities of stillness, of alignment, of root, calmness in the mind, spaciousness within the body. One more round. And open your eyes. Thank you very much, everybody. As always goes so quickly. I'm always slightly surprised when we approach the end. But thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.